Title: Heavenfall, Bloodlines of Fire and Ash. Chapter 1. The Duel of Heaven. The skies above heaven bled crimson that day. Young Tanner and Pahoua stood at the marble balcony of the celestial palace, his small fists clenched as he watched the great arena below, where the fate of his family and all of heaven would be decided. His father, Lord Pahoua, stood tall in the center of the arena, golden armor cracked but gleaming in the dying light. Around him, the gathered gods, immortals, and celestial generals watched in tense silence. Across the ring, his challenger, his own blood brother, Tanner and Pahoua, wore blackened armor, etched with strange red markings that pulsed like living veins. Tanner's mother gripped his shoulder, trembling. She already knew what Pahoua did not. This was not a duel of honor. This was an execution masked by ritual. Pahoa's voice echoed through the court. "Brother Jin, why? After all we've built, after all we've bled for this realm, you seek to tear it apart." Jin sneered, stepping forward, his eyes glowing faintly red. "Your time is over, Pahoua. Heaven needs a ruler with vision, with strength enough to crush earth and hell alike, not a weakling clinging to old codes. I will usher in a new era, even if I must kill my own blood to do it." Tanner felt his chest tighten. His uncle's voice was wrong, too cold, too hollow. He remembered when Jin would ruffle his hair and call him Little Dragon. But now, Jin's aura was tainted, dark and heavy, like a storm that swallowed light. The arena's bells tolled. The duel had begun. Pahoua charged first, a streak of golden lightning. His fists cracked the ground, sending shockwaves that split the marble floor. Jin parried with a dark spear, the impact releasing bursts of corrupted energy that warped the air. Blow after blow, technique after technique, thunderous fists, spears of shadow, strikes that split the clouds. They clashed with godly might. Even from the balcony, Tanner felt the ground shake beneath his feet. For a while, it seemed Pahoua, the Lord of Storms, would triumph. His strikes found purchase, forcing Jin back, his spear chipping, his armor denting. But then it happened. Jin grinned, a twisted, unnatural grin, and muttered words no god should speak. The sky darkened further, and from the cracks in the arena floor, black tendrils erupted, screeching like the damned. Hellspawn poured forth, their skeletal forms crawling and writhing. Gasps echoed from the court, gods stepped back in horror. Pahoua froze, realization dawning in his eyes. You've made a pact with them?" Jin's laugh was like shattering glass. "Did you really think I could match your strength alone, brother? Hell offered me the power I needed, and in return, I offered them heaven." With a roar, Jin's body surged with dark energy. His once proud celestial aura turned into a black storm laced with screams. His spear morphed into a jagged blade, dripping with cursed essence. Pahoua fought harder, lightning crackling, wind howling. But Jin's newfound strength overwhelmed him. A forbidden strike, a technique banned since the dawn of creation, pierced Pahoa's defenses. Blood sprayed across the arena as the mighty Lord of Storms fell to his knees. From the balcony, Tanner screamed, "Father!" His mother clamped a hand over his mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Quiet, my son, or they will come for you too." Pahoua, battered and bleeding, tried to rise. Jin stood over him, dark blade poised, but Pahoua, in his last act of defiance, unleashed a blast of pure wind and lightning that scattered the hellspawn and created a gap in the horde. He turned, eyes locking with his sons across the arena. "Run, Tanner, live, and one day, take back what is ours." Guards loyal to Jin swarmed the palace, and chaos erupted. The Pahoua family, once the gods of martial power, became fugitives in a single blood-soaked day. Tanner's mother grabbed him, dragging him away through secret passages while heaven burned and screamed behind them. The skies turned black as Jin's forces declared the Pahoa's fallen traitors. The Prince of Heaven was no longer a prince. He was an exile. a hunted heir with nothing left but his name, and the storm burning in his veins. Chapter 2. The Exiled Prince. The fall from heaven was not swift, it was cruel. Tanner remembered little of the descent, only the endless wind that tore at his skin and the burning shame that gnawed at his heart. He, once heir to the celestial throne, now tumbled through the skies like broken refuse. When he and his family struck the mortal soil, the heavens above them sealed shut. No light shone through the storm clouds that hung there like a wound. They were exiled, forsaken, forgotten. They settled in the shadow of the dark Spine Mountains, in a nameless village where no one asked questions and no gods dared to look. His mother, once a queen of divine grace, now worked with calloused hands, mending clothes and tending to the sick. His father, Lord Kael, survived the duel, but barely. Crippled and spirit shattered, he could no longer wield the lightning or command the storms. He became a ghost of the warrior he once was, spending his days in silence, staring at the skies that no longer answered him. But young Tanner, he refused to break. Every day he rose before the sun, training in the frozen woods beyond the village. Barefoot on jagged rocks, fists bleeding against ironwood trunks, he taught himself the old forms, the secret Vulong martial arts whispered to him by his crippled father during rare moments of lucidity. Fist must strike like thunder, feet must move like wind, heart must be harder than steel. The other children mocked him at first, called him sky rat and fallen whelp. But when bandits came, and Tanner crushed their leader's jaw with a single blow at the age of 12, the mocking stopped. Yet the fight was not only with men. The beasts of hell, sensing the faint divine blood in his veins, often prowled near their village. Tanner hunted them, at first out of defense, but later out of hunger for challenge. Each slain beast, each drop of blood spilled, made him stronger. Years passed. His body hardened like tempered steel, his techniques evolving beyond even the old heavenly forms. He mixed the brutal survivalist fighting of Earth with the godly arts of his ancestors, a new style born of exile and pain. But even as he grew powerful, the weight of shame never left him. The world still whispered that the Vulongs were cursed. His uncle, Jean Vulong, now sat on the heaven throne, growing fat with power, spreading his dark influence down to the mortal realm. Earthrealm kings either bent the knee to heaven or vanished. Tanner watched it all in silence. Every scar on his knuckles, every broken bone, every drop of sweat, all were fuel for the storm that brewed in his soul. One day he vowed to the winds, "I will climb back to heaven, and I will rip Jian from his throne with my bare hands." But fate, dark and cruel as it was, had other plans. Because far away, in the glittering palaces of Earthrealm, another storm was brewing. A princess of unmatched potential. A daughter whose fate would soon collide with his in the darkest forest and change the course of all realms forever. Chapter 2. The Exiled Prince. Expanded Edition. The fall from heaven did not end with the crash to earth. It lingered in every day that followed. Tanner Vulong and his family landed far from any shining city or golden palace. They found themselves in the bleeding woods, a cursed stretch of forestlands at the edge of the known world, where sunlight rarely broke through the twisted canopy and the ground stank of old blood. Their new home was a hovel on the outskirts of a nameless, dirt-poor village where no one cared for lineage or titles, only survival. The villagers were hardened folk, woodcutters, hunters, and outcasts who lived in fear of the beasts and spirits that prowled the dark. To them, Tanner's family were just more fallen souls, strangers with strange eyes and haunted faces. The village itself was little more than a cluster of rotting huts bound together by broken fences. Smoke from cooking fires clung low to the ground. At night, the wailing of ghosts echoed from the woods, and red-eyed beasts prowled the tree line, waiting for weak prey. Tanner's mother, once queen of heaven's shining court, now washed the filth from the garments of peasants and mended their tools with trembling hands. His father, Lord Kyle, lived like a broken shadow. Crippled and mute, he rarely left the stone bench where he stared at the sky that had abandoned them. The villagers whispered about him, a fallen god turned beggar, a curse on this land. But Tanner, even as a child, refused to wither. By the time he turned 12, he had made the Bleeding Woods his true home. He trained where no sane man would tread, and on cold river stones slick with moss where his bare feet blistered and bled, against ironwood trunks until his knuckles cracked and his bones hardened like steel, in the black marshes where cursed spirits whispered lies in the dark, and he learned to drown out fear with sheer will. But his strength was not hoarded. As he grew older, Tanner began traveling beyond his wretched village. Word had spread among the surrounding poor settlements that a strange boy in tattered clothes fought monsters with his bare hands. A boy whose fists cracked bones like thunder and whose eyes burned like storm fire. They called him many names. A ghost fist in the river villages, a storm cub among the mountain clans, and demon bane in whispered, hopeful voices. Tanner would wander for weeks at a time, venturing to desperate places, the ghost of Red Hollow. The first time the people of Red Hollow saw him, they thought he was another lost orphan. A lean boy with ragged clothes, his hands wrapped in blood-stained cloth. Their village had been cursed for years. A ghost known as Lady Hollow Eyes haunted their fields and dragged the living into the earth. Priests failed. Hunters vanished. When Tanner arrived, they laughed bitterly. "You, a child, go home before the ghost eats your soul." But Tanner said nothing. He asked only for a bowl of broth and a place to rest after he was done. Then, without ceremony, he walked alone into the dead fields at dusk. The fog grew thick. The wind turned cold. And then she came, Lady Hollow Eyes, her face eyeless and bleeding, her limbs twisting unnaturally, her voice a chorus of the dead. "Your soul, your blood, your body," she hissed. Tanner stood still. No sword, no charm, only his fists. When she lunged, he moved like a flash of wind, dodging her claws by inches. His fist, wrapped in prayer cloth torn from his mother's old robes, struck her spectral form. The hit cracked the air, a technique only known to the old gods. His father called it Thunderbreaker Fist. The ghost shrieked as her form flickered, but she was not defeated. Shadows coiled around her, and she swelled into a towering form of writhing hands and teeth. Most men would have run. Tanner grinned. "I fought worse in my sleep." He struck again and again, each blow laced with storm force, breaking the ghost's form apart piece by piece. When dawn came, the people of Red Hollow found their cursed fields clean, the earth soft again, and the ghost's remains burned to black ash. They called him Ghost Fist after that, and they told every traveler of the boy who punched a spirit to death with his bare hands, the swamp beast of Stone Reach. But the title that made his legend spread further came months later. The swamp town of Stone Reach had been dying slowly. A great beast, a three-headed marrow serpent, rose from the black waters and fed on fishermen and children alike. Their warriors failed, their walls crumbled, the stench of death choked the air. When Tanner arrived, they no longer laughed. They were too broken to care who tried. The creature attacked at sunset, rising from the mire, scaled, bloated, each head snapping with rows of jagged fangs. Its body was armored in bone and mud, immune to blades and arrows. Tanner waded into the swamp, waist-deep in filth, his body smeared with mud and herbs to mask his scent. When the beast struck, he met it head-on. His first move was to blind the left head, driving a sharpened bone shard into its eye. As it thrashed, he vaulted onto its back, using the creature's own spines as handholds. It roared, rolling in the muck to crush him, but Tanner held fast. With raw force, he drove his fists into the gaps between the creature's bony plates, channeling his father's forbidden sky-breaking technique. Each punch sent shockwaves rippling through the beast's insides until blood and black ichor burst from its mouths. The battle raged until the swamp itself turned red. At the end, Tanner stood atop the corpse, mud-covered and bleeding but alive. The people of Stone Reach gathered in stunned silence. Their elder fell to his knees. "You are the Storm Cub, the demon bane sent by the old gods." They offered him gold and silver. Tanner refused. He took only a meal and a place by their fire. But from that night on, songs of the Storm Cub spread beyond the bleeding woods, reaching even the ears of Earthrealm nobles, solving feuds and saving the broken. Not every battle was against monsters. Tanner often found villages torn apart by old grudges, cursed land, or demonic influence. In the twin villages of Ash Hollow and Bitter Well, he ended a decades-long blood feud by exposing the truth. The water they fought over was cursed by a hell priest, feeding their hatred. Tanner burned the tainted well and forced their leaders to face their shared shame. In Weeping Hollow, where children vanished each winter, he tracked the disappearances to a pack of forest wraiths and slew them beneath the roots of the bleeding tree. Each act, each fight, added to his growing myth. But to Tanner, it was only training. Every demon slain, every ghost destroyed, brought him one step closer to the real enemy, his uncle Jian, the usurper god. At night, back in his miserable village, he watched the blackened sky. His mother, thin and tired, would beg him to rest, but Tanner could not. Not while his father sat mute and broken, and the heavens still ruled by a traitor. Not while the people of Earth bled and died, forgotten by the so-called gods. His fists hardened. His heart, once that of a boy, now beat like a storm trapped in a cage. Soon, he whispered to the wind, "The cage will break." And fate, always watching, was preparing his first true test, a meeting that would change not just his path, but the fate of earth and heaven alike. Chapter 3: The Abduction of Pahoua. When heaven and earth begin to tremble, far to the south of the bleeding woods, past broken villages and cursed rivers, there stood a kingdom that even heaven could not easily shake, the realm of King Chiang. Earth's strongest sovereign, ruler of iron-walled cities and vast armies, his family line had withstood centuries of war against both mortals and gods. His citadel, known as the Emerald Spire, pierced the sky like a challenge to the heavens themselves. And at the heart of this powerful realm was his only child, Princess Pahoua, the Gilded Cage. Pahoua was no fragile royal flower. From the day she could walk, her father had seen in her a spark of raw power, a spirit fierce as wildfire. While other noble daughters learned to sing and dance, Pahoua trained with the spear and bow, breaking bones in the sparring yard and taming wild steeds that threw grown men. But even with her strength, she lived in a gilded cage. For years, whispers of war circled her like vultures. Heaven's new ruler, the usurper god Jian Vulong, watched Earthrealm with growing envy and fear. "The Chiang bloodline grows too strong," Jian muttered in the halls of heaven. "Their armies rival ours. Their daughter, she could unite Earth against us." Thus he struck first, but not with armies, with shadows. The day darkness came. It happened on an afternoon that began in peace. Pahoua, weary of palace walls, slipped away with only a single handmaiden to pick wild flowers beyond the garden gates. Beyond the walls, the forest whispered with spring wind. But in those woods, dark forces waited. Without warning, shadows erupted from the ground. Hellspawn sent by Jian, wolf-headed beasts with chains for spines, and eyeless stalkers that bled smoke. They swarmed the princess. Her handmaiden died screaming before she could even cry for help. Pahoua fought. She wielded her dagger, slashing at the nearest beast's throat, but there were too many. Claws raked across her side, blood soaking her silken robe. Her legs carried her deeper into the woods, further and further until the trees grew black and twisted. The forbidden forest, where even her father's knights dared not go. But the beasts pursued her still, their howls shaking the earth, the collision of fates. In that cursed forest, fate sharpened its blade. Tanner Pahoua, the fallen prince, was there, hunting a demon that had been preying on a distant village. He heard the screams first, then the crashing of beasts through the underbrush. His instincts, honed from years of survival and battle, flared like lightning. Without thought, he ran toward the sound. Bursting into a clearing, he saw her, a girl, bleeding and staggering, cornered by a pack of abominations that reeked of hellfire. Her eyes, defiant even as death loomed, met his for the briefest moment, and in that instant, something ancient and powerful stirred within him. "Not today," Tanner growled. "Not while I still draw breath," he charged. The first beast lunged. Tanner's fist met its skull mid-air, shattering bone with a crack like thunder. He moved like a storm-given flesh, dodging claws, smashing jaws, tearing through the pack with fists and kicks fueled by divine fury. One beast wrapped chains around his arm. He ripped it free, dislocating his own shoulder in the process, and used the chain to strangle the creature until it went limp. Blood soaked the earth. The last hellspawn, sensing death, tried to flee, but Tanner hurled a sharpened stone through its eye, dropping it mid-step. When silence fell, only he and Pahoua remained standing. She collapsed then, her strength spent. Tanner caught her before she hit the ground, his heart pounding not from battle, but from something else he couldn't yet name. "You're safe now," he muttered. "I swear it." The aftermath. He carried her through the night, back to his village hidden deep in the bleeding woods. His mother tended Pahua's wounds with old remedies, whispering prayers in a tongue long forgotten. For days, Pahoua drifted between fever and restless dreams, but when she awoke, she found herself in a world unlike her own. A poor village clinging to survival, yet filled with people who still smiled in defiance of the darkness around them. And Tanner, this fierce, broken, mysterious young man, became her shield in those days of recovery. Side by side, they would soon face more than just beasts. Together, they would hunt demons, protect helpless villages, and slowly, through sweat and blood, forge a bond neither heaven nor hell could break. But that tale was only beginning. Chapter 4, The Bond Forged in Blood. When hearts beat against death. Pahoua was no weakling, and she made that clear the day her fever broke. Though her body ached and the wounds on her side were still raw, she refused to lie idle in the wretched little hut Tanner's family called home. She rose, gritting her teeth through the pain, and demanded answers. "Who are you? Where is this place?" Her voice was sharp, the command of a princess accustomed to obedience, even if she stood barefoot and bleeding in the middle of a mud village. Tanner, leaning against the doorframe with arms crossed, studied her in silence for a long moment. His face was unreadable. When he finally spoke, his words were blunt as a hammer. "You're in the bleeding woods, and I saved your stubborn ass from getting torn apart." Pahua's pride flared. "I would have fought them off myself." Tanner gave a short, humorless laugh. "You would have died." Their eyes locked, sparks crackling between them, storm meeting wildfire. The first hunt together. Despite her pride, Pahoua couldn't deny the truth. She owed him her life. And when Tanner spoke of a nearby village being terrorized by a demon boar, a beast that had already killed 6 farmers, her warrior's spirit refused to ignore the call. "I'm coming with you," she declared, gripping her dagger despite her half-healed wounds. "I don't need protection." Tanner eyed her bruised ribs and the slight tremble in her stance. "You'll slow me down." "Try me," she shot back. He shrugged. "Fine. Just don't die. I'm not carrying your body back." The near-death battle in Black Hollow. The creature they faced was no ordinary beast. It was a hell-touched boar, swollen with demonic corruption. Its tusks jagged like swords, its hide thick with bone plates, and its breath stinking of sulfur. They found it in the ruins of Black Hollow, a village already reduced to ashes. The ground quaked as it charged them, a living battering ram of death. Tanner moved first, ducking low and smashing his fist into the boar's side, but the hide was tougher than stone, and the impact barely staggered it. The beast's tusk grazed his shoulder, tearing through flesh like paper. Pahoua, gritting her teeth against the pain in her ribs, flanked it from the side. She leapt onto its back, driving her dagger between the bony plates. Blood, black and steaming, erupted from the wound, but the boar roared and bucked, throwing her into a collapsed hut. Her vision blurred. Blood filled her mouth. She coughed, struggling to rise. The boar turned its fury toward her, charging. "Move!" Tanner roared, but she couldn't. His body moved before his mind did. Tanner threw himself between Pahoua and the beast, catching the charge head-on. The impact shattered bone. Tanner felt his ribs snap, pain blooming like fire in his chest. But he held fast, his feet digging trenches in the earth as he forced the monster back with raw strength. Blood poured from his mouth. "Damn thing, you're not taking her," he snarled. The turn of the tide. Pahoua's heart for the first time clenched with more than pain. Seeing him bleeding, broken, yet still shielding her, cracked something deep inside her proud, guarded soul. "Get off him!" she screamed, forcing her body to move. With a cry that tore her throat raw, she drove her dagger into the beast's eye. The boar reared back, shrieking. That was the opening Tanner needed. With a roar that echoed like thunder through the woods, he unleashed the sky-breaking fist, the forbidden technique of his fallen bloodline. His punch, laced with crackling energy, struck the beast's skull and shattered it like brittle stone. The creature collapsed in a heap, twitching once before going still. Blood and breath. For a moment, there was only silence. Tanner dropped to one knee, coughing blood, his vision swimming. Pahoua crawled to his side, her pride forgotten, her hands shaking as she grabbed his face. "Don't you dare die," she hissed. I still owe you," Tanner smirked through cracked lips. "You owe me twice now." Their faces were close, too close, breath mingling, both stained in blood and dirt. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Pahoua looked away first, her cheeks burning despite the cold. "Idiot," she muttered. "Next time, don't try to be a hero. Next time, don't get thrown like a sack of rice," Tanner shot back, grinning weakly. Despite the pain, despite the blood, they both laughed. A harsh, breathless sound that was more alive than anything they'd felt in years. The bond forged. That night, as they limped back to the village, word of their victory spread like wildfire. Another monster slain, another village saved. But between them, something deeper had begun to form, not spoken, not admitted yet, but felt in every glance and every scar they now shared. They were no longer strangers bound by chance. They were comrades bound by blood and battle, and though Pahoua would never admit it out loud, every time she looked at Tanner now, her heart beat just a little faster. Not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. And Tanner, for all his rough edges, had begun to look at her not just as a proud princess or stubborn fighter, but as the first person who made him feel alive again. Their war was far from over, but their bond, forged in near death and stained in blood, would only grow stronger. Chapter 5. The Promise of Thrones. When bloodlines awaken and truth burns. The days after their victory over the demon boar saw Tanner and Pahoua's names whispered in the nearby villages. Demon slayers, saviors of the weak. But the peace was thin, like ice over dark water. It cracked on the night they faced the demon lord of the woods. The disappearance. A small village at the edge of the bleeding woods sent word. A little girl, the last child of a family wiped out by famine, had vanished into the forest. The villagers begged Tanner for help, their faces hollow with fear. They spoke of shadows moving in the trees, of whispers promising power and life in exchange for souls. Pahoua was the first to stand. "We can't ignore this," she said, voice tight. If we don't act, more will vanish. Tanner nodded, though unease twisted in his gut. The woods felt different now, heavier, as if something far worse than monsters had taken root. The trap in the Black Grove. They found the girl's trail leading deep into a part of the forest Tanner had sworn never to enter. The Black Grove, where the trees bled sap like wounds and the ground pulsed as if alive. Too late, they realized the girl's cries had been bait. From the shadows emerged Lord Karksil, a demon lord from the first hell, a beast clad in rusted armor fused to bone, with antlers wreathed in flame and eyes that dripped black ichor. Karksil laughed, the sound like blades scraping bone. Ah, the Lost Prince and the Earth Princess. 2 prizes in one hunt. Pahoua drew her spear. You'll have to kill us both first. Gladly, Karksil grinned. The battle, blood and fire. Karksil struck first. His chains shot from his arms like vipers, wrapping around Pahoua and slamming her against a tree. She gasped, ribs cracking, already weakened from her earlier wounds. Tanner roared and charged, but Karksil was no mere beast. He moved like smoke and struck like thunder, sending Tanner skidding through the dirt. The little girl sobbed in terror, trapped behind Karksil's looming form. I will offer her soul to my master, Karksil sneered, and then we shall take Earthrealm as well, with the blessing of your uncle Jian Wulong. The words froze Tanner's blood. His uncle, working with hell? Liar! Tanner spat, rising to his feet. But Karksil only laughed. Your uncle has already opened the gates. Earth is next, and your precious princess will be the first offering. Tanner's vision darkened with rage. His fists clenched until blood ran from his palms. The awakening, heaven's fallen blood. When Karksil lunged for Pahoua again, Tanner snapped. His body erupted in light, but not the gentle glow of heaven. This light was violent, cracking, writhing. The Wulong bloodline awakened fully for the first time since his fall from heaven. His skin shone with golden cracks, and his eyes blazed silver. Energy surged around him like a storm unchained, the ground splitting apart as raw martial power bled from his very bones. Pahoua, barely conscious, saw him and felt her heart jolt. Tanner, she'd never seen power like this, not even in her father's greatest generals. The near-death struggle. Tanner attacked, faster than thought, his fists colliding with Karksil's chest and sending shockwaves that shattered trees for miles. But Karksil, now angered, shed his mortal form, revealing his true shape, a towering horned titan wreathed in flame and shadow. Their clash shook the woods. Each strike from Tanner cracked mountains, but each counter from Karksil burned flesh and bone. They fought until both bled from 100 wounds, their blood soaking the earth and turning it black. Tanner, even with his awakened power, began to falter. His vision blurred, his muscles tore, and Karksil's dark chains wrapped around his throat. Pahoua, dragging herself upright with her last strength, hurled her spear. It pierced Karksil's shoulder, not enough to kill, but enough to loosen his grip. Tanner roared one final time and unleashed his father's forbidden technique, the heaven-crushing palm. It struck Karksil square in the chest, sending cracks through the demon lord's armored hide. Karksil shrieked, torn between realms, but not destroyed. He vanished in a burst of black flame, his laughter echoing. This is only the beginning, fallen prince. Earth will burn. The promise made. The forest fell silent. Tanner dropped to his knees, gasping, his body broken and smoking from the inside out. Pahoua, bleeding and barely alive, crawled to him. She touched his face, her vision swimming with tears and pain. You're not just some wanderer, are you? She whispered. Tanner, too weak to lie, nodded faintly. I was a prince of heaven, before my family was betrayed by my uncle. Pahua's heart thundered. Pieces clicked together, the power, the monsters, the war. She clenched his hand tightly. Then I swear, she rasped, I'll help you take back what's yours. Her voice cracked, but her vow was iron. We'll reclaim heaven, and then we'll burn hell to the ground together. Their hands, slick with their mingled blood, clasped tight, sealing their promise in flesh and pain. In that moment, beneath the dying trees of the Black Grove, a bond was forged stronger than oaths, stronger than kingdoms. It was a promise that would shake the heavens themselves, and neither of them would ever be the same again. Chapter 6: Thrones and Thorns. When loyalty is tested and power revealed. The journey to the Jade Citadel, seat of Earthrealm's greatest power, took 12 days. 12 long days where every step was shadowed by the memory of Karksil's words. Hel and Tanner's uncle were moving against Earth, and the clock was ticking. Pahoua rode ahead on horseback, battered but unbroken. Tanner walked beside her, refusing aid despite his cracked ribs and seared flesh. Pride and pain kept him upright. "You should rest," Pahoua muttered on the third night, not meeting his gaze. "You saved me again back there." "Idiot," Tanner snorted. "You stabbed a demon lord in the chest. Don't act like you didn't save me first." Their glances lingered longer now. Their silences grew heavier, filled with things neither dared name yet. But war was coming, and hearts were luxuries they couldn't afford. The Jade Citadel, a cold welcome. The gates of Chayeng Palace loomed like mountains, carved from living jade and guarded by warriors in gold armor. At their arrival, horns blared, but the faces that greeted them were not warm. King Chayeng stood atop the palace steps, his presence like an iron wall. A towering man with storm-grey eyes and scars running down his jaw, Chayeng was Earthrealm's mightiest ruler, a king who had once stood toe-to-toe with heaven's armies. His gaze flicked from Pahoua, his only daughter, to Tanner, bloody and worn but standing tall. "You brought him here." Chayeng's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "This stray, this boy with wild power and no name." Pahoua stepped forward. "He saved my life, father, twice. He is no stray. His name is—" "I know who he is," Chayeng cut her off, his voice sharp as a blade. His eyes burned into Tanner. "Tanner Vulong, fallen prince of heaven, son of Shen Vulong, the disgraced god." Gasps rippled through the court. Nobles muttered, soldiers shifted uneasily. The name Vulong still carried weight soaked in both glory and betrayal. Chayeng descended the steps, each stride like a hammerfall. "You saved my daughter, but that does not make you worthy of her. Heaven's politics are poison, and I will not let that poison into my bloodline." Tanner stood his ground, though every instinct screamed at him to bow, to submit. But he'd bowed once before, and lost everything. Never again. "I didn't come here to beg," Tanner growled. "I came because Earth is in danger. Hell and heaven are already working together. They nearly took your daughter as the first offering." Chayeng's eyes narrowed. "Prove it." The battle at the Iron Plains. As fate would have it, proof came sooner than expected. 3 days after Tanner's arrival, Hell's forces launched a surprise assault on the Iron Plains, Earthrealm's border stronghold. Demon legions surged through breached portals, their black banners rippling in the wind. King Chayeng himself rode to war, leading 10,000 elite soldiers, and, to Pahua's shock, Tanner was summoned to ride beside him. Not because the king trusted him, but because Chayeng wanted to see with his own eyes what the fallen prince was capable of. King Chayeng's banners flapped in the dry wind, golden dragons against black sky. 10,000 soldiers stood behind him, shields gleaming and armor rattling. Across the field, the demon army oozed through the cracked earth, beasts with blades for limbs, giants with molten eyes, and black-winged wraiths shrieking through the air. At their center, a monstrous Hell Knight raised its cursed greatsword and roared. "Hold the line," Chayeng bellowed. "Let them break upon us like water on stone." The ground quaked as the demons charged. King Chayeng, the hammer of Earthrealm. Chayeng's hammer, Stoneheart, forged from earthstone and star metal, glowed with runes as he charged into the front lines. His fighting style was raw power. and his first swing smashed a demon hound's skull, the impact sending out a shockwave that flattened 3 more nearby. A second blow cracked the ground open, swallowing an entire demon squad into the fissure below. When a hulking ogre demon lunged, Chiang ducked low and swung upward, his hammer shattering the beast's spine and sending its broken corpse flying. His body glowed faintly with earth chi, making him as unmovable as a mountain. Blades glanced off him. Claws skittered uselessly against his skin. "I am the wall that will not fall." He roared, each blow shaking the very battlefield, but even his mighty strikes couldn't stop the endless tide. Pahoua, the spear that dances with death. Pahu moved alongside her father, her silver spear flashing like a comet. Where her father was a storm of force, she was a blade of precision. She thrust her spear into a demon's eye, then twisted and slashed through its throat before spinning away from a black arrow. Leaping into the air, she executed her family's art, the crimson petal spiral, her spear spinning so fast it became a deadly shield, cutting down 6 demons that tried to surround her. As a winged demon swooped down, she reversed her grip and threw her spear, the moonsteel tip piercing its heart mid-flight and pinning it to the ground. She retrieved her weapon, breathing hard, sweat and black blood mixing on her skin. "You won't take my home," she whispered, jabbing and slicing with deadly precision. But for every demon she felled, 2 more took its place. Her arms grew heavier, and the tide pressed closer. Tanner Vulong, Heaven's forgotten fist. Tanner fought farther back, alone against a squad of Hell Knights. His fists were bare, but they cracked armor like stone. His fighting style was celestial martial art, flowing yet brutal. It began with sky-breaking fist, his punch shattering a knight's chest plate and sending it sprawling. A second knight lunged with a spear. Tanner twisted aside and delivered a falling star kick, the blow snapping the demon's neck and sending its body cartwheeling through the air. When surrounded, he unleashed meteor rain palm, slamming rapid strikes into the ground that sent stone shards exploding upward like a trap, impaling his enemies from below. Blood smeared his face and his breath came ragged, but then a greater Hell Knight appeared, black-armored, wielding a flaming cleaver, and it slammed Tanner to the ground with a roar. "You are no prince, you are ash!" the demon spat. Tanner coughed blood, struggling to rise, his vision blurred. He could see Pahu nearby, surrounded, wounded, barely holding back a flood of demons. He could see King Chiang struck down, a massive demon knight raising its blade to deliver the killing blow. His heart thundered, his blood burned, and something ancient stirred. "No, not again," Tanner growled. Tanner's awakening, the Vulong bloodline unleashed. Golden light erupted from Tanner's body, his true power, sealed for years, now breaking free. His fists glowed with celestial flame, and silver scales shimmered along his arms like a phantom dragon awakening. The demon knight brought its blade down toward King Chiang, but Tanner blurred forward with impossible speed. He struck with a heaven-crushing palm. A blow shattered the demon's cursed blade. A second strike ruptured its chest, golden light pouring from the wound. The final blow, a 2-handed dragon's spine breaker, cracked its spine and collapsed its body into dust. The battlefield went silent. Even demons paused, staring in fear. Tanner stood there, glowing with power, his breathing heavy but controlled. His family's mark, the sigil of the Vulong clan, burned bright on his back. King Chiang, still kneeling from his fall, looked up at him. His eyes widened. You are truly Shen Vulong's son." Tanner's fists unclenched, and the light faded. But his secret was out. His bloodline revealed in front of kings and soldiers alike. The aftermath, bonds forged in blood. With new fury, Chiang and his soldiers rallied. The king's hammer struck with renewed strength, shattering demon lines. And Pahu, seeing Tanner stand, surged forward, her spear cutting down demon commanders in a storm of spinning steel. And Tanner, breathing hard, unleashed the last of his strength, blasting through the remaining knights with precise, devastating strikes. The king's acknowledgement. When the dust settled and the plains were soaked in demon blood, King Chiang approached Tanner. His armor was dented, his face smeared with soot, but his eyes were clear. He looked at the boy who had just saved his life, the same boy he had scorned days before. "So, you truly are Shen Wulong's son," Chiang murmured. "Power like that doesn't lie." Tanner, exhausted, only nodded. "And I intend to use it to take back heaven and destroy hell." Pahoua, standing at Tanner's side, added, "And I will help him. We both will." Her eyes flickered to her father, daring him to object. Chiang's gaze swept over them, his daughter, fierce and stubborn, and Tanner, bloodied but unyielding. A long silence followed. Then the king grunted, "I still don't approve of you for my daughter, but—" His eyes narrowed. "If you are truly the storm that will shatter heaven and crush hell, then you have earned the right to stand in my court." For now, it wasn't an embrace, but it was acceptance. And in the world of kings and gods, that was as close as love would ever get, the war that looms. But even as victory songs rang out from the Iron Plains, Tanner knew this was only the beginning. The hellspawn they faced were scouts, pawns in a far larger game. His uncle, now ruler of heaven, was gathering armies. Hell's lords were opening more gates, and Earthrealm, even with its might, stood alone against the storm. Pahoua touched Tanner's arm, her grip strong. "We start here, we'll unite Earth, and then we take back what's ours." Tanner looked out over the blood-soaked plains, his fists clenching. His war had begun the day his family fell, but now he had allies. And together, they would tear down the false gods and demons alike. Chapter 7, Blades of Earthrealm, Allies and Enemies Alike. Where blood must be spilled before oaths are sworn. The battle at Iron Plains left scars upon the land and upon the hearts of its victors. King Chiang now knew the truth of Tanner Wulong's bloodline, but their war was far from over. Above them, the corrupted heavens gathered strength, and in the dark corners of Earthrealm, demonic cults grew bolder. "We must unite the clans," the king declared, "or we will fall alone." 3 great families ruled Earthrealm's scattered armies. The Xiong clan, famed for their brute strength and beast-like martial forms. The Li clan, masters of wind and blade, assassins and duelists of terrifying speed. The Mua clan, sorcerers and elementalists who bent nature itself to their will. But these clans did not bow easily. They respected only power. And so, Tanner, Pahoua, and King Chiang set out, not to negotiate, but to challenge, one by one. The challenge at Stone Fang Fortress, Xiong Clan. The fortress loomed against the mountain cliffs, built from black stone and iron gates. Here ruled General Xiong Da, a giant of a man whose fists had shattered demon skulls like melons. When Tanner and Pahoua arrived, Xiong Da greeted them with a roar of laughter. "If you want my warriors, you'll have to take them from me in battle." The challenge was given. Tanner would fight Xiong Guang, Da's eldest son, a man said to have the strength of a raging bear. Tanner versus Xiong Guang, the clash of flesh and bone. The arena was a circle of stone, watched by hundreds of Xiong warriors pounding drums. Xiong Guang stepped forward, shirtless, muscles knotted like tree trunks, scars crisscrossing his chest. His fists were wrapped in iron rings, each blow heavy enough to break stone. He charged like a bull, earth shaking beneath his feet. Tanner dodged left, barely, as Guang's fist smashed the ground, leaving a crater. Tanner countered with sky-breaking fist, striking Guang's ribs, but it was like punching an iron wall. Guang grinned and grabbed Tanner mid-strike, lifting him overhead and slamming him into the ground with bone-rattling force. "You fight like heaven's child," Guang sneered. "But down here we fight with rage." Tanner coughed blood. Then his eyes glowed faintly, his view-long bloodline awakening. He spun, dodging the next blow, and struck Guang's knee with meteor rain palm, shattering the joint with precise, rapid strikes. Guang roared and came in for a final overhead smash, but Tanner countered with his secret art. And Dragon Spine Breaker, a double palm strike to Guang's chest, sending him flying backward and crashing through the stone wall. The arena fell silent. Zhongde rose, clapping his massive hands. "Well fought, Vulong. My fists are yours. We march at dawn, the duel at Whispering Reed's Li clan." Next, they traveled east to the misty marshes where the Li clan resided. Here, Lady Li Jian ruled, swift, sharp, and cold as a blade. Her clan valued speed and precision above all else. She demanded a duel, Pahoua Yayeng against her daughter Li Suyin, famed for killing a demon lord with a single stroke. Pahoua versus Li Suyin, dance of blades in the mist. The duel took place on narrow wooden platforms floating on the marsh, surrounded by reeds whispering in the wind. Li Suyin appeared like a ghost, slender, dressed in grey, her twin swords gleaming with poison. She struck first, a blur of silver slicing the air. Pahoua barely parried with her spear, the force nearly knocking her into the water. And Suyin's style was wind-step blade, each step silent, each strike aimed to kill. Pahoua countered with crimson petal spiral, spinning her spear in wide arcs to keep the assassin at bay. Blades flashed, wood splintered. The air grew thick with tension. Suyin darted forward, aiming a killing thrust at Pahou's throat. But Pahoua dropped low, spun, and swept the assassin's legs out from under her. Suyin rolled and threw poisoned darts. Pahoua deflected them mid-spin with the shaft of her spear. With a cry, Pahoua unleashed her family's secret art, a moonlight-piercing fang. A thrust so fast and sharp it cut through Suyin's left blade and stopped an inch from her throat. Breathing hard, Suyin smiled faintly. "You win, princess. My clan follows strength, and today you've earned it." Lady Jian bowed from her pavilion. "Earthrealm will bleed as one. We march with you." The battle at Fireroot Grove, Mua clan. Their last challenge lay in the south at Fireroot Grove, where the Mua clan practiced their elemental arts. Their leader, Master Mua Leng, was old but dangerous, a master of earth and fire magic. Instead of duels, they faced a trial: defeat the Flameblood Hydra, a demon sealed by the Mua clan long ago. Tanner, Pahoua, and King Chiang versus the Hydra. The Hydra burst from the swamp, 7 heads spewing flame and acid. Together, King Chiang roared. He charged first, his Stoneheart hammer smashing one head aside, the blow sending tremors through the earth. And Pahoua leapt from rock to rock, using moonlight spear rain to impale the Hydra's eyes, blinding 2 heads. Montana dodged flame blasts, then channeled his power into celestial dragon surge, striking 6 times in rapid succession and breaking through the beast's thick scales. But the Hydra regenerated fast. It lashed out, smashing Chiang into a boulder, snapping at Pahoua and nearly biting her in half. Tanner saw her in danger, and rage flared in his chest. With a roar, he unleashed his bloodline's true form. Ghostly dragon wings flared from his back, and his fists glowed gold. He struck with heaven-crushing palm, blasting the Hydra back. Then, he combined his strike with Pahou's spear, the 2 weapons piercing the Hydra's heart in unison. The beast collapsed, hissing and steaming as it died. Alliance forged. Master Mua stepped forward, stroking his beard. "You have strength, unity, and spirit. My sorcerers and shamans will join your war." And so, the 3 great clans, Xiong, Li, and Mua, swore oaths of loyalty. Their armies now gathered under one banner, ready to strike at heaven and hell both. But in the shadows, assassins and spies from Tanner's treacherous uncle watched, and far beneath, the Lord of Hell laughed, knowing war was only beginning. Chapter 8: Blood for the Heavens, the Siege of Dawnspire. where victory demands sacrifice. Dawnspire was once Earthrealm's beacon, a shining city where humans and celestial envoys walked side by side. But now it had fallen. Under Tanner's uncle, High Lord Vulong Ren, who betrayed his own blood, heaven's corrupted angels ruled Dawnspire with iron and flame. Its people were enslaved, its towers were crowned with black banners. The alliance of Earthrealm marched to take it back. But they all knew victory would come at a price. The siege begins, heaven's hounds unleashed. At the city gates, Tanner stood at the front lines alongside King Tanner, Pahoua and the new allies, Xiong, Li, and Mua clans. From the walls, heaven's corrupted seraphim descended, their wings blackened, their spears burning with cursed light. And with them they unleashed the heaven hounds, great beasts with bone armor and flame breath. First battle, Tanner versus Seraphim Commander Kyle. Kyle, once a noble angel, now wore twisted gold armor, his face hidden behind a spiked mask. His spear crackled with lightning as he descended, targeting Tanner directly. Kyle struck with Heaven's Spearstorm, a flurry of jabs so fast they tore the air apart. Tanner barely parried, his arms burning from the force. He countered with sky-breaking fist, but Kyle deflected it with a sneer. Lightning danced across Tanner's body, searing his flesh. He gritted his teeth, feeling his Vulong blood stir once more. When Kyle lunged for a killing blow, Tanner unleashed Celestial Dragon Surge, his fists glowing gold as he struck Kyle's spear and shattered it in midair. With a final heaven-crushing palm, Tanner smashed Kyle into the ground, cracking the stone plaza. Kyle lay still, beaten but alive. Victory's cost, Li Suian falls. As they pressed forward, tragedy struck. Li Suian, Pahua's rival turned ally, led her assassins to flank Heaven's archers. She fought with grace, her twin swords cutting down winged enemies, until a hidden angel, wielding a blackened celestial arrow, struck her in the back. Suian fell, blood staining the stone steps. Her last breath was a whisper. "Tell Lady Jian, I fought to the end." Pahoua saw it happen. Her scream echoed across the battlefield. Victory over Kyle was theirs, but Li Clan's finest daughter was gone. Second battle, the Gate of Fallen Light. At Dawnspire's main gate, the battle turned desperate. And General Xiong Guang, now Tanner's sworn brother, smashed through enemy lines, his fists breaking shield walls like glass. And Mua shamans summoned roots of fire and earth, binding and burning Heaven's hounds. King Chiang struck down 3 seraphs with his warhammer, each blow ringing like thunder. Pahoua, fueled by rage and grief, fought like a demon. She unleashed her family's secret art, Moonlight Spear Tempest, spinning and thrusting so fast it became a storm of silver light, cutting down 5 angels in one sweep. But the gate would not fall. Tanner's breaking point. Tanner saw his friends dying, soldiers crushed, comrades screaming in flame. He knew they couldn't win unless he fully embraced his forbidden power. He stepped forward, his blood glowing golden as he invoked his ancestors. "Vulong blood, do not fail me now." His body ignited with celestial dragon flame. He struck the gate with Dragon's Spinebreaker, a blow so powerful it sent a golden shockwave through the city walls. The Gate of Fallen Light shattered. The army surged inside, the city taken, but at a price. By dusk, Dawnspire was reclaimed. The corrupted angels were slain or captured, but the streets ran red with blood. Soldiers from every clan lay dead. The Li clan mourned Suian's death. The Xiong clan lost over 100 warriors. Mua sorcerers were burned alive by Heaven's flame traps. King Chiang stood atop the broken gate, his face grim. "We won, but the price." Tanner's hands shook as he stared at the flames. "Every victory costs more, and my uncle, he watches. He'll send worse next time." Pahoua came to him, her face stained with tears and ash. "We keep fighting," she said, voice hard as steel. "For every friend we lost today, for Earthrealm, and for your family's honor." Tanner met her gaze. And for you, he whispered. Chapter 9, Throne of Broken Wings. The day heaven burned and a new ruler rose. The march into heaven. The sky itself trembled as Tanner Violong led the combined forces of Earthrealm through the celestial gates. Pahoua rode beside him, her spear gleaming with sacred light. Behind them, the banners of the Shong, Li and Mua clans fluttered, tattered, bloodstained but unyielding. The army passed through the shattered outer walls of heaven, once pure white, now cracked and blackened from war. Above them, the golden spires loomed, the seat of power where Tanner's uncle, Violong Ren, ruled as false king. Today we take back what was stolen, Tanner declared, voice ringing like thunder. For my family, for Earthrealm, and for every soul betrayed by heaven's corruption. The army roared in answer. Battle at the sky steps, first blood at heaven's gates. The first defenders were the celestial guardians, ancient warriors with shining wings and golden armor, led by the cruel General Serik. Tanner versus General Serik. Serik landed before Tanner, his wings spread wide, wielding a halberd wreathed in divine flame. You are unworthy to step upon heaven's soil again, Tanner Violong. The fight began. And Serik struck first with blazing sky cleave, a downward slash that split the marble stairs in two. And Tanner dodged and countered with sky-breaking fist, his blow sending shockwaves that cracked Serik's golden armor. The two clashed mid-air, Serik's halberd spinning, Tanner's fists glowing with celestial dragon flame. Serik lunged with sunfire spear thrust, nearly impaling Tanner. But Tanner caught the blade bare-handed, his palms burning as he roared and shattered the weapon with heaven-crushing palm. With a final blow, Tanner struck Serik's chest, sending the general crashing down the steps, his wings broken. Pahoua's duel, spear against heaven's blades. While Tanner battled Serik, Pahoua faced heaven's Valkyries, a squad of female warriors with silver blades and cruel smiles. They attacked as one, blades singing through the air. Pahoua spun with moonlight spear tempest, deflecting and countering every strike. Her spear cracked against their shields, sparks flying like falling stars. A Valkyrie slashed her shoulder. Blood sprayed, but Pahoua gritted her teeth and drove her spear through the woman's chest. Breathing hard, wounded but victorious, Pahoua stood amidst the fallen. Her eyes met Tanner's. They both knew this was only the beginning. The throne room showdown, Tanner versus Violong Ren. Blood against blood. The golden doors of heaven's throne room cracked open. Inside, High Lord Violong Ren sat upon the throne. Tanner's uncle, wreathed in dark power, his once pure aura now tainted by hellish flame. So my dear nephew comes to die, Ren sneered. Did you think I would fall like the weaklings before me? Beside Ren, the sky turned red. A portal to hell pulsed behind him, feeding him dark power. The truth was now clear. Ren had sold heaven's purity in exchange for demonic strength. Tanner stepped forward. You stole our name. You betrayed heaven. Today, I end this. Ren rose, his body wrapped in black and gold armor. His weapon, the heaven-hell blade, forged from fallen angel wings and demon bone. The final duel, nephew versus uncle. The fight shook heaven itself. Sin Ren struck first, his blade trailing hellfire as he unleashed infernal heaven slash, a wave of black flame that tore through marble pillars. And Tanner dodged, countering with celestial dragon surge, his fists glowing gold as he hammered blows against Ren's armor. But Ren was too strong, empowered by both heaven and hell. He struck Tanner in the chest, sending him crashing into the throne steps. Blood spilled from Tanner's mouth. You're still weak, boy, Ren roared. You don't have the will to kill your own blood. Tanner's vision blurred. He saw flashes, and his fallen father. The burning villages he protected. Pahoua's tear-streaked face. He stood, power flaring. His dragon blood awakened fully, Golden scales shimmered on his arms. His eyes glowed like twin suns. I fight for more than myself. I fight for everyone you betrayed. He unleashed his final art, and true dragon ascension, golden flames erupted from his body, wings of light spreading wide as he soared forward. Ren roared and met him mid-air with Hell's judgment strike. The two powers collided in a blinding explosion. The throne room shook, columns crumbled. When the light faded, Ren knelt, his blade shattered, blood pouring from his mouth. Tanner stood over him, fists clenched. It's over. With one final heaven-crushing palm, Tanner struck his uncle down, breaking his connection to Hell and ending his reign. Victory's price. Heaven fell silent. The remaining angels, seeing their false king defeated, bowed before Tanner. All hail, High Lord Tanner Vulong, rightful ruler of heaven. But victory came at a cost, and hundreds of Earthrealm soldiers lay dead in the golden streets. The Li clan's forces were nearly wiped out, and King Chiang stood bloodied, having lost many loyal generals. And worst of all, the portal to Hell remained open, pulsing with dark energy. Pahoua limped to Tanner's side, her armor cracked and bloodied. We won, but it's not over, is it? Tanner looked toward the portal. No. The Lord of Hell is still watching. He knows we're weak now. He'll strike next. The throne reclaimed, and the next war looms. Tanner sat upon the throne, but not in triumph. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what came next. Heaven was his now, but Hell was rising. And next, he and Pahoua would have to lead both Heaven and Earthrealm in the final war, to seal Hell forever or lose everything. Chapter 9, The Descent, Last Battle in Hell. Where light and darkness collide for the last time, the gates of Hell open. Tanner Vulong stood at the head of Heaven and Earth's combined armies, staring into the black abyss where the portal pulsed like a beating heart. Behind him, King Chiang, Pahoua Yang, and the last surviving clans, Xiong, Li, Mua, readied themselves for the final march. We go now, Tanner spoke, his voice heavy with power and pain. This is the end, for them or for us. The portal roared open, swallowing the army whole as they descended into Hell. Hell's domain, the battlefield of flesh and bone. The ground was made of twisted bone and screaming faces. Mountains bled rivers of fire. Above, the sky cracked with crimson lightning. From the shadows, the armies of Hell surged forth. Barn demon lords 10 stories tall, their bodies stitched together from the damned. Hell beasts with jagged spines and molten claws. And at their head, Lord Bazul, the Lord of Hell. Crowned with horns, his skin black as night, and his voice a chorus of 1,000 tortured souls. Bazul laughed. Come, little Prince of Heaven. Come and die like your father before you. The epic war begins. King Chiang's last charge. The King of Earthrealm led the first assault, wielding his mighty warhammer wreathed in stormlight. And he smashed through hell beasts with earthquake hammerfall, the ground shattering beneath him. But even the king staggered as a demon lord's club struck him, cracking his ribs. Chiang roared, blood spilling from his lips, but he fought on, refusing to fall while his daughter watched. Xiong, Li and Mua's final stand, when General Xiongguang unleashed his Iron Mountain fists, punching through demon flesh and bone. And Li clan's assassins, fewer now, darted through shadows, cutting throats before being swallowed by flames. And Mua shamans summoned ancient spirits, binding demons with chains of light. But each spell cost them their lives, burning them from within. Every victory bled them dry. Every step forward was over their dead. Tanner and Pahoua's near-death struggle, the demon lord's ambush. Midway through the battle, 2 demon lords ambushed Tanner and Pahoua. Gormouth, the beast of 1,000 mouths. Sirenex, the serpent queen of shadows. Gormouth roared, vomiting acid and tendrils. Tanner charged, fists blazing with golden fire, striking with dragon's fang strike. But the demon's hide was thick. Each blow barely tore chunks away. Cyrenex slithered around Pahoua, her shadow blades slashing. Pahoua fought back with moonlight spear tempest, spinning desperately, silver light flashing as she cut through shadows. But Cyra's venomous fangs pierced her side. Blood gushed. Pahoua's wound, the twist begins. Pahoua staggered, her skin around the wound blackening. The venom wasn't just poison, it was demonic corruption. Her eyes flickered red for a moment. Tanner saw it. His heart clenched. Pahoua! He roared and unleashed his full power. True dragon ascension, golden wings erupting as he struck Gormouth's head, caving it in with a blast that lit up all of hell. With Pahoua barely standing, she threw her spear with all her might, piercing Cyrenex's heart and turning the serpent to ash. But the cost was clear. Her wound deepened, and black veins crawled up her side. Final duel, Tanner versus Lord Barzul. At the center of the battlefield, Barzul stepped forward laughing. "You cannot save her, and you will not stop me. I will rule Earthrealm and heaven alike." Tanner, bloodied and limping, faced the towering demon lord. This was the battle that would decide everything, the fight. And Barzul attacked first with Hellfire Cataclysm, waves of flame that turned soldiers to ash. And Tanner flew through the storm, striking with heaven-crushing palm and sky-breaking fist, each blow staggering the demon, but not stopping him. Barzul's claws ripped Tanner's flesh. Bones cracked. Tanner collapsed, coughing blood, vision blurring. Pahoua's last stand. Pahoua, even while poisoned, charged with her spear, driving it into Barzul's eye, blinding the beast. But the demon swatted her aside, slamming her into the bone walls. Her body lay still. Tanner's final power. Seeing Pahoua fall, Tanner's rage erupted. His bloodline awakened fully. Scales covered his body, and his aura turned blinding gold. "I will not lose her. I will not let you take everything from me again." With a final devastating attack, Dragon God's judgment, Tanner soared and punched through Barzul's chest, shattering the demon's core. Barzul howled, his body crumbling to ash as hell itself trembled. Hell falls, victory at a cost. The portal collapsed, the demon army scattered, leaderless. The Alliance had won, but as Tanner crawled to Pahoua, he saw her wound had deepened. Her eyes flickered red again. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow. "Pahoua," Tanner whispered, holding her close. "Stay with me." She smiled weakly. "We won, didn't we?" "Yes, we did," but in her smile was pain and fear. The black veins crept closer to her heart. Chapter 10, A Crown and a Curse. The end that opens another beginning. Heaven restored. Back in heaven, Tanner was crowned the new High Lord. The angels knelt. Earthrealm's armies returned as heroes. King Chiang, battered but alive, gave his blessing for Tanner to rule heaven, though his eyes often strayed to his daughter, now resting in a guarded chamber. Pahoua's struggle. Days passed, but Pahoua's condition worsened. Priests and shamans tried everything: holy water, celestial light, ancient rites. But the demon venom was too deep. She hid her pain behind smiles, but at night, her body trembled, her nails darkened, her reflection twisted. Tanner visited her every night, sitting at her bedside. He promised to find a cure. She promised to fight it. But they both knew time was running out. The final scene, open ending. On the balcony of Heaven's palace, Tanner and Pahoua stood together, looking at the world they saved. Stars twinkled above. The world was at peace. "We can finally be together," Tanner said softly, his hand in hers. Pahoua squeezed his hand, but he felt her fingers were colder now. She leaned close, whispering, "For as long as I can." Behind her smile, her eyes flickered, red for just a heartbeat. Tanner's heart clenched. The wind blew. Far away in the shadows beyond the stars, something stirred. The battle was over, but the war, perhaps not.